For those who may not know me, my name is Donisha Smith, and I serve as the chief over the Center for Financial Empowerment and Foreclosure Prevention Program here at the LA County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. We've hosted topical webinars since the onset of the pandemic to help practitioners and service providers stay informed of the many trending issues, new programs, and services so that you can help your clients navigate all of the resources available and help them get through this really difficult time. Today, we kick off the housing preservation track of our COVID conversations. Homeownership is a major vehicle for creating family stability. It can lead to improved outcomes for children, and it is one of the few tools available for minorities to build generational wealth. Data from the Pew Charitable Trust indicates that the bursting of the housing market bubble in 2006 and the recession that followed from late 2007 to mid 2009 took a far greater toll on the wealth of minorities than whites. Black and Latino homeowners were 71 to 76% more likely to lose their homes to foreclosure during that time period than white families. And that is incredibly sobering when you consider that home equity typically is the single source of wealth for minority communities. So, since we know that minorities are much more likely to lose their homes to foreclosure during an economic downturn, we know that they are also much more likely to be victims of foreclosure rescue scams. Scams aimed at homeowners facing foreclosure were very prevalent during the Great Recession. And as extended unemployment relief and various COVID moratorium protections are going to be lifted in the coming weeks, we should anticipate an influx of these incidents once again. So DCBA, along with local housing counseling agencies, are working proactively to outreach and warn property owners about these scams because they pose a significant threat to home ownership since they undermine legitimate help that is available. Today, we have two of our own experts, Ani Devitian and Cello Jovellanos, two counselors from our foreclosure prevention team, who will tell us more about these scams, how to spot warning signs and red flags, and where property owners can get free, reliable help. Cello will be our first speaker today. Cello, I'll turn it over to you, but before I do, I just want to remind all of our participants to please use the chat box to submit your questions, and we'd be more than happy to ask your questions during the course of the presentation. And with that, now, Cello, I will turn it over to you to get us started.
Thank you so much, Donisha. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending our webinar, which is Avoiding Foreclosure and Rescue Scams. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I just want to point out there what our mission is, and that is to promote a fair and vibrant marketplace. We do serve consumers, businesses, and communities through education, advocacy, and complaint resolution. Our department has been serving Los Angeles County consumers and businesses since 1976. Next slide, please. So again, my name is Cello, and Ani, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Ani, and you may contact us at our personal emails if you have any questions or concerns, and you may also reach us through the Contact DCBA Home Help email through our website or by giving us a call at the number listed.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is our agenda for today. We will discuss about our services first and then the foreclosure process. How do the scammers contact the homeowners? What are the common foreclosure rescue scams and how to identify them? How to avoid foreclosure rescue scams and where to report these scams. Next slide, please. Okay, so let me start by giving you a brief summary of our services in our program. there are actually three main consumers that we assist in our program. These are the homeowners, the landlords, and the tenants. So for our homeowners, our program provides foreclosure prevention counseling services who are in default with their mortgages, with their HOA assessments, and with their property taxes as well. We do assess their particular situation. We provide options counseling and discuss with them the California foreclosure process to make sure that they understand it so they will know where they at and how much time they have before the property gets foreclosed. On the real estate fraud, we implement the homeowner notification program in partnership with the Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder's Office that provides additional protection to homeowners by mailing notices with a summary of the recorded documents and the department's contact information. We assist in verification of these recorded documents to determine if it is fraud, and then we provide general investigation research of these alleged frauds and complaints. And then we refer these complaints that need intervention to the outside agencies, like regulatory or enforcement agencies. I just want to add that when the Safer at Home was implemented in March this year, we expanded our services, providing information and assisting in the application on foreclosure moratorium. And this information includes the moratorium on initiating foreclosure sales or evictions for at least 60 days. So meaning these financial institutions will not initiate foreclosure sales or evictions. Helping them in applying for forbearance, which is the 90-day grace period for mortgage payments. We make sure that our homeowners know that there is no negative credit impacts resulting from this forbearance, and there should also be no fees and charges that will be applied. Now, to date, we also assist our homeowners in the application of extending their forbearances and other retention options like loan modification, repayment plan, or reinstatement to avoid the foreclosure of their properties. Lastly, which is our topic for today, is we alert our homeowners to beware of the foreclosure prevention scams. The further information on these scams and ways to avoid it will be discussed later on. Next slide, please. For our landlords that are requesting assistance with their mortgages and financial resources, those types of issues are being routed to our team. We assist them in communicating with their lenders to know their alternatives to foreclosure. They may be qualified for forbearance as well and assist them in applying for options they qualify for when the forbearance program is already over. We refer them to rent relief programs provided by the LACDA, or the Los Angeles County Development Authority. This agency helps the property owners to protect the rental income during the COVID-19 pandemic. We do give updates to them about the LA County's temporary eviction moratorium and rent freeze. But if they have further questions regarding these issues, we will refer them to contact our rent stabilization unit for other ways to solve their hardships. For example, if they have issues or if they need assistance about rent resolution, payment arrangements, and communication with tenants, then rent stabilization units will be able to assist them. Again, we do inform them of the common foreclosure prevention scams and how to avoid them. Next slide, please. So for the tenants, we mainly inform our tenants about their rights when the property they live is in foreclosure. So under the Federal Protecting Tenant and Foreclosure Act, or the PTFA, a new owner after a foreclosure has to honor an existing residential lease until it ends, unless that new owner wants to live in the home. In that situation, the new owner has to give the tenant 90 days notice to move out. Also, month-to-month tenants are entitled to 90 days notice before having to move out under the law. We also assist them in negotiating for cash for keys and refer them to housing agencies for temporary shelters. During this time, the pandemic, we remind the tenants who call us about the LA County's temporary eviction moratorium and rent freeze, same service as we do with the landlords. And if they have further questions regarding the moratorium and need temporary relief funds or rent resolution, then we refer them to rent stabilization units. So again, in all our consumers, we emphasize that there are common foreclosure prevention scams out there, and we also remind them as to how to avoid it. Next slide, please. So to understand how foreclosure rescue scam takes place, we all need to know the foreclosure process in California. So this diagram mainly illustrates how the process is. In every avenue of this process, the scammers can take advantage of the homeowner's vulnerability. So the thought of losing your home is likely one of the most frightening you'll ever have in your lifetime. And during such time, you're more vulnerable to just about anything that promises to help keep your home. So unfortunately, too many of these offers are simply foreclosure relief scams, and they prey on people who are in horrible financial predicaments that have left them in the position of being about to lose their homes. Now, before this process begins, the lender or the loan servicer may send you letters, so over the course of several months, demanding the payment. And these letters are not notices of default, but reminders that you are delinquent in your account. So on the first column of the diagram, if the borrower and the lender have not worked out a plan to avoid foreclosure, the lender can record a notice of default at least 30 days after contacting you for the foreclosure avoidance assessment. This marks the beginning of the formal and public foreclosure process. Remember that in California, we have a non-judicial foreclosure, meaning it's done outside of court. That power of sale clause in the deed of trust that secures the mortgage loan gives the trustee the authority to sell the home to pay off the balance at the request of the lender if the borrower defaults. The lender sends you a copy of this ND or notice of default by certified mail within 10 business days of recording it. You then have 90 days from the date the notice of default is recorded to cure this default. So meaning you have to fix it usually by paying what you owe. Since the notice of default is a public document, many fraudulent companies and scam artists search the public records to send defaulted borrowers offers to help, that is quote unquote, to help our homeowners avoid losing their homes to foreclosure. And these fraudulent companies could take your money and then do nothing to help. So if you do not pay what you owe, a notice of trustee sale is recorded. So please refer to the second column of the diagram. So this is recorded at least 90 days after the notice of default is recorded. This notice of sale states that the trustee will sell your home at an auction in about 21 days. Now, the notice of sale will be sent to you by certified mail from the Registrar Recorder's office. It is also posted on your property as well as in public place like a courthouse. It has the date, time, and location of the foreclosure sale, the property address, the trustee's name, address, and phone number, and a statement that the property will be sold at a public auction. Now, at least 21 days after the date when the NT or the notice of trustee sale is recorded, the property can be sold at a public auction. So if you can refer to the third column of the diagram. Now, On this day, 4 possible scenarios may happen during this time. First, an auction may be postponed if the borrower filed for bankruptcy. The sale date may be postponed in a monthly basis for up to a year. Just a reminder that when the bankruptcy discharges or dismisses, the auction foreclosure will get activated again, and then there will be a sale date for the property. The next one, the property can be sold to the bank. So the lender actually bids at the auction in the amount of the balance due plus the foreclosure costs. If no one else bids, then your home goes to the lender. So these properties are called real estate owned. And usually these properties are being posted to the REO website of the lender. The third scenario is that during the auction, a successful bidder has paid the full amount of the bid with cash or cashier's check. So it was sold to the third party. Lastly, the auction was canceled because the borrower worked it out with the lender by reinstating the amount owed or have paid off the amount owed. Then at that time, the auction will be canceled. So just a note that when the property was sold to the bank or was sold to a third party, a trustee's deed upon sale will be recorded. And on that title, it will show that the transfer of the title of the property was done from the previous homeowner to either the bank or to the third party. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are many ways how scammers can contact homeowners when the property goes into foreclosure. Keep in mind that foreclosures or recording of notice of default or notice of trustee sale are public records in California. The scammers have access to these documents, which have the contact information of the homeowners, like their property addresses, and then their names. They can search for the phone numbers and so on and so forth. So these scammers, they contact the homeowners either in person, via advertisements, over the phone, emails, or marketing at the internet, and via mail. So on this slide, I've put some scenarios here, like let's say, for example, in person, someone will knock on your door and convince you to sell your property to him and take over your mortgage payments. So you have to do your research regarding this person to see if he's legitimate. Advertisements on TV, radio, media, or billboards that offer to get you a loan without checking your credit report or financial condition. So that's actually a red flag if, to identify that that is a scam. Next slide, please. Okay, there are also a number of phony counseling agencies out there that offer their services for an outrageous fee over the phone. So later on, Ani will discuss that it's actually illegal to do this. So she'll further discuss this matter later on. There's also predatory lenders convince you to apply for a low interest mortgage over the internet, extracting your social security numbers and bank accounts. So not only will you be scammed for your mortgage, you will also be a victim of identity theft. Lastly, mass mailing or letters that you receive, and you'll notice that it will be coming from government agencies, but it's actually fake, and they use government logos as well to convince you to apply for a bogus low interest rate. So for our next part of this presentation, Ani will discuss with you the topic for common foreclosure rescue scams. Ani?
Thank you, Cello, again for that introduction. So today I will be discussing some common loan scams and how to identify and avoid these scams. So maybe go to the next slide. So the most common loan scams include foreclosure rescue counseling, phony government loan modification programs, mass joinder lawsuits, signing the title of your property without your knowledge, rent-to-own leaseback scams, short sale scams, and filing for bankruptcy without your knowledge. So during a fake foreclosure rescue counseling scam, a fake counselor will charge what they call processing or administrative fees for the foreclosure assistance, and they normally advise homeowners not to contact or pay their lenders directly. These scammers may ask that the mortgage payments be sent to them directly instead of the lender or servicer. And after receiving payment, the homeowner has trouble contacting these scammers. They will change their phone numbers, they'll change their names, and they'll move on to somebody else. It is illegal in the state of California to charge for these services prior to assisting the consumers. Phony government loan modification programs involve homeowners getting mailings with fake government stamps stating that they can receive government loan modification plans after paying certain fees. So the government will never contact you as a homeowner and tell you that they are going to be offering you a loan modification or taking your home in the foreclosure process. This is always done between the lender and the homeowner or borrower. During a mass joinder lawsuit, these scams include scammers promising homeowners that if they pay a fee to join a class action lawsuit, they will be able to stop the foreclosure, receive a reduced loan balance or interest rates, and receive monetary damages. When the scammer wants to take over the title of the property, they will convince homeowners that by signing documents, they will be signing up for new loan modifications. However, that's normally not the case. They're trying to get you to sign a deed and take over the title of your property. Elderly homeowners are most commonly targeted in these scams. Rent-to-own leaseback scams are when scammers convince the homeowner to surrender the title of the property as a part of the deal that the homeowner will stay in the home as a renter, and after a few years, they will buy back the property. However, the scammer has no intention of giving you back your property title. And, in these cases, if the homeowner has any loans on the property and they default on their payments, they may be evicted from the property as they're no longer on title. During a short sale scam, the homeowner is offered a short sale by a fake negotiator who includes hidden fees when selling the property. The scammer may misrepresent the value of the home to the lender. When negotiating the terms of a mortgage, the negotiator should be licensed. However, because they are attempting to scam you and buy your home from you through a short sale, they are most likely not licensed. And if the scammer wants to file for bankruptcy under the homeowner's name, they will promise to contact the lender and negotiate retention options. However, after being paid an upfront fee, they will file for bankruptcy under the homeowner's name. And may we go to the next slide? So to identify these foreclosure rescue scams, homeowners should understand that if they're being pressured to sign over deeds to their property, it's most likely a scam. You should always read and fully understand what you are being asked to sign. And if you're being rushed in these instances, decline to sign the documents until given enough time to review. Another indicator for homeowners would be when they are told not to contact or pay their mortgage directly to their lenders or servicers. Homeowners should always remain in contact with their lenders or servicers and always make mortgage payments directly to them. Homeowners will also receive mailings with government stamps that refer them to non-governmental websites or sources. This is a major red flag, and we will discuss a little bit more of this within the next few slides. Scammers will attempt to convince homeowners to sign over documents without reading and understanding them. They will most likely request payment for foreclosure prevention services and guarantee that the foreclosure can be stopped or a loan can be modified. Only the lender or the servicer of the loan can guarantee the acceptance of a loan modification or request that the foreclosure be stopped. All right, and on to the next slide. So to avoid common loan scams, homeowners should contact their lenders first and take time to understand the documents they are signing. Do not pay for foreclosure prevention services prior to receiving the services offered. It is best to seek assistance from the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs and other trustworthy housing and urban development or HUD agencies. Never feel pressured to sign a document, and check with the Department of Real Estate or the DRE to see if the mailings are received from legitimate companies or agencies. Always check for red flags on these mailings from government agencies. These red flags may include misspelled words, websites that refer homeowners to a .com, .net, or .org instead of a .gov, or that refer them to non-governmental companies or agencies. Advertising materials must be submitted to the DRE for approval before being sent out to homeowners. Any person offering a loan modification should be licensed by the Department of Real Estate. And on the next slide, we actually have an example of some of these red flags. So here we have Mr. Kevin Carter, who represented himself as a senior mitigation consultant for housing and urban development and making home affordable, which is no longer available and has not been offered to homeowners since 2017. Homeowners were misled to believe that they were being contacted by these federal agencies. However, Mr. Carter never worked with either HUD or Making Home Affordable. He would send these fraudulent letters with the HUD abbreviation and with a logo similar to that of Making Home Affordable. And he would claim that in these mailings, he's actually not trying to scam you. He's saying that I don't work with HUD or Making Home Affordable, but homeowners, if they don't take a close look, they're going to think that they're being contacted by a federal agency. During this time, he would offer loan modifications to homeowners, and instead of contacting the lenders or servicers, he would just take money that homeowners would pay him and just disappear after a while. He would stop assisting them, and he would just take their mortgage payments and walk away. He would send these mailings out to multiple people at a time and just do the same thing over and over again. So these homeowners were not aware that they were not getting loan modifications because he was telling them not to contact their lenders, and they were paying the mortgage directly to him. The Department of Consumer and Business Affairs also did receive many cases against Mr. Kevin Carter, and we can clearly see here how the homeowners misinterpreted the fraudulent mailings as government mailings. Okay, and the next slide, please. So here we have a part of an article from the Orange County Register. Mr. Kevin Carter was actually a man from Santa Ana whose real name was Kevin Frank Rasher, and he eventually pleaded guilty to a dozen counts of mail fraud and was sentenced to about 8 years in jail and ordered to pay $2.24 million in restitution for the money he stole in the loan modification scam. Homeowners involved in this class action lawsuit were cautioned that they would most likely not be reimbursed. This goes back to our previous slides on how to identify and avoid foreclosure scams. Homeowners were contacted by a fraudulent mail and guaranteed a loan modification. They were told not to contact their lenders directly. They would pay Mr. Carter, who would take the money and never contact their lenders regarding the promised loan modifications. Homeowners were not aware of this because, again, they were told not to contact their lenders or servicers. The red flags include the fake logo on the mailing, sent by a man who was not registered with the Department of Real Estate, and he was not licensed to be offering any type of foreclosure prevention services. Homeowners were told not to contact their lenders and make the mortgage payments directly to someone other than their lender or servicer. Even though Mr. Rasher was convicted of this crime, homeowners in the class action lawsuit still did not receive reimbursement, a loan modification, lower interest rates, or monetary damages. Okay, next slide, please. So here we have a short list of where to report these scams. The Department of Consumer and Business Affairs will take complaints from homeowners involved in foreclosure rescue scams. We will create a case and investigate the fraud. DCBA counselors, however, cannot regulate other agencies or offer any legal advice, but will assist homeowners with legitimate foreclosure prevention services. DCBA counselors will work with the homeowner and contact their lenders or servicers looking for loan modifications or other available retention options to end the foreclosure. Right now, due to the pandemic, a lot of these lenders and servicers are offering forbearances. So we can contact them and work with both the homeowner and the lender to get a forbearance. After the forbearance payment is over, we can work with them again to find either a loan modification or other retention options that the lender may offer. The Department of Consumer and Business Affairs also cannot guarantee a stop to the foreclosure and will not charge for any of the services offered. Homeowners may also contact the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, who will add their report to the Consumer Centennial Network database used to track crime and criminals. They may also contact the Department of Real Estate and file a complaint if they believe they have received fraudulent mailings. So one thing that a homeowner targeted by Mr. Kevin Carter could have done is instead they could have contacted the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. We would not charge for any of the services that Mr. Carter offered. And again, we'd work with both them and the homeowner and always advise them to contact the lender. It's very important to remain in contact with the lender and make the payments directly to them. They, after being targeted by Mr. Carter, could contact the Federal Trade Commission, who would take their complaint and add it to a list of other individuals who have also filed a complaint against this individual. That is how they gather enough information to start a class action lawsuit against this man. And they may also contact the California Department of Real Estate to see if this individual is registered to be sending these mailings or to be offering these services. They would find out if they had done that he is not a legitimate individual or agency and they should not be working with him for any of these services. All right, and the next slide, please.
Ani, before we move on, we have a question from the audience. Someone asked, are there similar agencies in other counties and states that do all the wonderful work you do for LA residents? Now, it's my understanding that our department is one of the few local consumer protection agencies in the nation. So how would you respond to that question? People are asking about similar departments in other counties.
As far as I'm aware, with other counties, there isn't a wide Department of Consumer and Business Affairs in other counties. We do assist specifically LA County, but the Federal Trade Commission and the California Department of Real Estate can still assist individuals that are targeted outside of Los Angeles County.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And here, this is when to contact an attorney. So if homeowners have legal concerns, it is best to contact an attorney, especially when involved in a scam where the scammer has filed for bankruptcy under their name, or when they have taken the title from them. If the title is transferred and you'd like to have it transferred back under your name, you do have to go to court and prove that this was done fraudulently. It is best to, in this case, to contact a lawyer, as DCBA counselors cannot offer any legal advice. If the homeowner wants to sue the lender because they believe that the foreclosure was done fraudulently, it is also recommended to contact an attorney. And if they have any other legal concerns, again, they will be referred to an attorney. It is also best to work with to contact the California Bar Association and work with attorneys that were licensed to do or practice law in the state of California. During the foreclosure process, you may be approached by other attorneys in other states, but it's best to work with someone who can practice law in the state of California. Lawyers can also not guarantee the approval of a loan modification or the end of a foreclosure. However, they can charge for services prior to assisting homeowners in foreclosure, as long as these services do not include requesting a loan modification from the lender or servicer. All right. And do you guys have any questions regarding anything presented today?
Well, that was great information, Ani and Cello. And while the questions roll in, I just wanted to highlight, some of the things you mentioned earlier. I can recall years ago when I used to do investigations for the department, and affinity fraud was a big problem, right? So you have people using their commonalities or their common bonds as a way to manipulate and exploit people. So, for example, you'd see people within the same religious affiliation committing foreclosure rescue scams within churches and other houses of worship. You'd see, Spanish speakers targeting other Spanish speakers. Is that still the case? And how would we, I guess, message that to homeowners for them to be wary of?
So foreclosures, it's all public record. So anybody who is attempting to scam can go to the county registrar recorder and pull information. It is common for the scammer to be related to the individual in some way, whether if they have same practices, go to the same church, speak the same language. It is common. We do see that they might have some sort of a relation. And normally they do target people that they can kind of relate to, because that's how they get them to believe that they're an actual individual or working with an actual agency that can offer these services.
Okay, and just to be clear, your foreclosure rescue scam services or your real estate fraud investigations, those are also open to small mom and pop landlords as well, not just homeowners?
That is correct, yes. So right now, actually, when the pandemic happened, most of our consumers that we're talking to right now are the landlords. So we do serve landlords with 15 or less units, and we assist them in applying for forbearance and other retention options to save their properties.
Wonderful. And I know a common sort of myth that's believed by a lot of people is that if you hear something on the radio, it must be legit or it must be true. And I know a lot of these scammers like to advertise on the radio.
Yes.
But just because we hear something on the radio doesn't mean it's legitimate service. Is that correct? So we should still sort of, be on guard with those services as well.
Yes, so always be on guard and always check with the Department of Real Estate to see if they are licensed to offer these services, because anybody can go online and advertise anything, or even, through the radio, but it might not be legitimate.
Okay. And can DCBA help homeowners and property owners, even if they're technically not in foreclosure, like a notice of default hasn't recorded yet, would you still be able to provide service?
Yes, we do. Prior to the pandemic, we're only assisting homeowners that are qualified for the SB 62 program, but right now we are helping everyone, homeowners, landlords, and tenants, and everyone. So even if they're not qualified for that SB 62 program.
I do see a question. Somebody asked, "Will we get this PowerPoint?" Yes, yeah, you will get this PowerPoint as well, and you can email me directly, and I will send it to you.
Yes, please take a minute and check your chat boxes. Someone may have sent a private question that I don't see. But yes, just to reiterate that, we will circulate a copy of the PowerPoint, and we record each COVID conversation series that we do, and we save it and post it on our website. So folks can always go back later and listen again.
So there is a question here from Carlos. If a consumer is requesting information on home loan modifications to avoid foreclosure, is that something that FP would counsel or assist as a consumer? Yes, so please refer homeowners who have questions about how to avoid foreclosure, kindly refer them to us.
Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions on my end. So Ani, Cello, thank you so much for a very thorough presentation. We all know that this is a really difficult, stressful time for most people. And scammers have a way of taking advantage of our fears and gaining people's trust to deceive them, unfortunately, for their own financial gain. Based on our past experience investigating these cases, we know that scammers essentially take a homeowner's money and run. You know, they're here today, gone tomorrow, and they provide a lot of misinformation. And ultimately, the homeowner ends up wasting a lot of valuable time that could have been spent getting reliable, trustworthy help. So in a nutshell, scammers essentially take a bad situation and make it worse. So for all the practitioners and the service providers who are on the webinar today, we hope that you will help us get the word out about these scams and steer people towards reliable, trustworthy help. As I mentioned earlier, we are in the process of working with local housing counseling agencies to develop an outreach toolkit. And once that is available, we'll share it via email. And we ask that, you know, all the agencies represented on our webinar today help us by posting the content, on your websites and on your social media platforms. And if you or someone you know is facing foreclosure, please remember that DCBA is here to help. Our services are free and confidential. We have well-trained staff that can work with you and your lender to help you explore all options to save your home. And so with that, that brings today's session to a close. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for asking questions. Stay tuned for more announcements about upcoming sessions. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Bye. Thank you.